Mr. Nirmala Sitharaman. Today, the big push is for privatization and corporatization, whether it is in coal mining or mineral mining, even in the space sector. The big push, the big focus in today's announcement was on privatization. The government monopoly in coal mining and exploration is now being changed. Private companies, commercial mining will now begin in the country. The same goes for mineral mining as well. In defense, the big headline is that the FDI limit is now being upped from 49% to 74%. This is for defense production. Also, there will be corporatization of ordnance factory boards and some defense spare part imports. There will be curbs on. They will exclusively be procured from Indian manufacturers and through Make in India. There is also as far as civil aviation is concerned, 2-3 announcements. 6 more airports will be up for auction. We've not been told which cities these airports will be in, but 6 more airports will be up for auction. India's airspace will be rationalized, and India is hoping to become an MRO hub, a hub for maintenance, repair, and overhaul of aircraft. Privatization of space, that is something that the finance minister referred to. It's not just going to be ISRO alone, but startups, private startups will be allowed to join in the field of space exploration. And in union territories, power distribution companies will be privatized. So a whole host of announcements today, the thrust of which is on privatization. Joining us on our debate here on CNN News 18, we've got our political guests, that is Gopal Krishna Agarwal and Anshul Avijit from the BJP and the Congress respectively. We also have our experts, Gaurav Chaudhary, Deputy Executive Editor with Money Control, and Sunil Alag, Chairman from SK Advisors, leading corporate voice here in India. Let me start with you, Gopal Krishna Agarwal of the BJP. Big thrust on privatization, whether it's in coal mining, mineral mining, even space exploration. Some would say it's taken a while coming, but finally here we are. If the pandemic is nudging the government to open up many areas to the private sector, then so be it. It's a good thing.
Jaka, it is not privatization that you can call it. It's a corporatization that has been doing and commercialization of certain activities which were completely bogged down, like mining, coals, etc. They were already in private sector, but their commercial exploitation processes, those were the reforms which were much needed. Today's announcement, I must congratulate the Finance Minister and the Prime Minister that many important sectors which are very important for the economic growth and development were just bogged down or were getting clogged because of the processes. That has been released. So coal, we had a third largest coal block, but then our industries were starving for coal. So then there was mining, minerals. Those activities were segregated. Unnecessary bureaucratic hurdles were there.
No, but how will you ensure that there is no exploitation, no commercial exploitation of these resources?
No, but that comes from your feeling that the capitalism is completely bad. That's not the case.
No, I didn't suggest that at all.
The capitalism in itself has several checks and balances. There are market forces, there are regulators, the government is there above all things. There are certain good things about the private companies operating.
Let me get Anshul Avijit of the Congress to respond to it.
Commercialization of many activities bureaucratic hurdles have to be removed.
We've had numerous, commercialization exercises even when the UPA was in power, whether it's in power sector reform, whether it is in coal sector reform, telecom sector reform, so on and so forth. So to that extent, today's announcements, you should welcome it, Anshul, wouldn't you?
Zaka, of course there have been. Nobody's denying that reforms are not needed in this country. I just like to understand what is the purpose of these series of announcements that have been made over the past 3 days. I'll come specifically to the ones today, but I want to know the purpose. Are we trying to fight a corona pandemic or set a vision for the future in this country? Is this some kind of a budgetary provision that we are making?
But not crying for corona endemic.
No, well, one second, let me finish.
Let me just finish what I'm trying to say. I just like to know what is the plan of the government. Now, all these plans are prospective plans. They're going to happen in the future. These are the words of Madam Finance Minister. These are plans, these are schemes, these are proposals that will happen in the future. It's a language which is future oriented. We have to sort of construct or reorient our our vision of time. We have to talk about the present. How are we fighting this crisis in the present while talking about coal reforms, by opening up space?
No, but Anshul,
by talking about
you would
PPP?
appreciate,
Of course,
Anshul, you would appreciate that the fact is that this pandemic has depressed the Indian economy. Demand is subdued. Many sectors are on the verge of near collapse. So we need to start talking about the economy as well. What measures are being taken to fight the pandemic? We are getting from the health ministry. That we're having daily briefings from the health ministry as well. But the economy is just as important, and I think the series of these press conferences, the point of it is to tell us what the government is doing to help revive the economy. What's wrong in that?
but certainly, there is nothing wrong in trying to determine the future of this country and set aside some kind of vision. I want to know what is being done on the demand side while countering this terrible epidemic we are going through. Now, the pictures that we see, those compelling pictures that we see every day, Zaka, on screens every day, including your channel, the whole day they're playing, of migrant workers, of others who are suffering by this terrible crisis. I want to know the direct benefits in present term, in real time, that is going through them. And one final point, I want to talk about this privatization, and specifically for this kind of the proposals that have been said about today. I mean, you take benefit of a particular crisis to ensure privatization in the response to that crisis. Now, by many people, that's called disaster capitalism, where you try and profit from a crisis itself. Nobody is denying that there should not be reforms.
Gopal Krishna Agarwal respond, then I need to bring in Gaurav Chaudhary and Mr. Alag into it. Just quickly respond, please. He's saying this is disaster capitalism, number one. Number two, and what are you doing to revive demand? What are you doing to revive demand? And these pictures of, migrant labor, even today we had an accident in Uttar Pradesh. What are you doing to help them?
So, Zaka, there are three issues. One thing is what we are doing for demand infusion. That this is not the only press conference that took place today. We had yesterday, day before yesterday, before that, then there was a finance minister, this RBI's announcement earlier. Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana was there. In the 2 months, several initiatives have to be taken care of. The problem with Congress is when we talk about stimulus package and creation of demand from the poor side, giving fund in their hand, they will say what you are doing about economics. When we talk about economic reform, then they will say what you are doing about putting money in the common man. That we have done already. If you want, I can completely now.
No. I want to stick to what happened today. I want to stick to what happened today. Let me go to Mr. Alag and to Gaurav Chaudhary.
No. 10 more seconds.
Yeah, 10 seconds. Okay, 10 seconds. Quickly, please.
The important thing today was the reform day for the economy. Today, separately, we are dealing with every subject. And there are major reforms, and economy was having certain bottlenecks. When the Prime Minister talked about factors of production and the bottlenecks and challenges in the economy, today FM has tried to deal with those subjects.
Okay, fair enough. Let me get Sunil Alag and Gaurav Chaudhary into this conversation. Sunil Alag, whether it is in coal mining, mineral mining, FDI being hiked in defense production, privatization of space exploration, all of these, the broad thrust today, Mr. Alag, seem to be to involve the private sector more. On principle, you would say that that's a good thing?
I think it's absolutely good, because the government is taking advantage of the crisis, so that anybody who speaks against it is going to really not be speaking for the economy. So they've taken advantage. These single moves would have been very difficult to go through in normal times, because opposition parties would have raised objection to the whole host. So I think what they've done, and I agree with Anshul to the extent that these are going to happen in the next 3 to 6 months, but they've given a direction, they've said they're going to do it, and nobody can stop it. That's the best part, is that they have gone ahead and announced it, whether it's coal, whether privatization, commercialization, whatever terms you want to use. Even increasing in defense production, they've gone up to 74%. There would have been a total hullabaloo whenever this kind of a thing was announced by all political parties. I am very glad that we are only discussing what has happened today. Well done, government. Well done, FM. Well done, PM. That's all I would say. But the other part, that Anshul has raised about demand, that's a separate issue. I'll agree with him.
Here's the thing. Gaurav, no, one second, Mr. Agarwal, one second. Let me go to Gaurav Chaudhary, please. I think it's a valid question. Are we doing enough? Is the government doing enough? Series of press conferences we've had now. Today was the fourth day. Is the government doing enough to revive demand? Because the one thing that's been battered because of this pandemic, and hopefully we'll all emerge in one piece at the end of it, is demand. People are going to be extremely reserved about spending. They're going to save up on cash. Through these series of announcements, tell us, what do you think are the most demand reviving moves that the government has done?
Well, to be fair to Anshul, actually, that is a question that everybody is asking, that what has the government done on the demand side? If you go through the set of measures that have been announced so far, today was tranche 4, most of this have been technically on the supply side. But having said that, the finance minister did respond to the question today on what has the government done on the demand side. On day one itself, on March 26th, within 36 hours of the lockdown being announced, the government actually announced a direct cash handout scheme to several people, tens of thousands of people had received that money, and those figures have been given several times over by the government and how much of money has been transferred so far. But the finance minister did explain that on the demand side, once the lockdown rules get relaxed over the next weeks or so, most of these MSMEs, which is actually the lifeblood of the Indian manufacturing sector. Just to put things in context, the MSMEs account for 45% of India's manufacturing sector. So it's absolutely critical for Indian MSMEs to actually start to stand up and walking if the economy has to revive at any time soon. And that is why the finance minister actually tried to explain that the demand side will be taken care of once the MSMEs start functioning and factories start operating in whatever truncated form that they may, and people start coming back to work. Please remember that some work is better than no work. And that is the route that the government that is the approach that the government probably is trying to take, instead of cutting out checks through the exchequer, which the US has taken. So this is the approach that the government has taken, that more of these, the stimulus, the so-called stimulus or the fiscal support will come in the form of contingent liabilities, in the form of sovereign guarantees to loans, etc. And also today, if you look at today's thing, the measures that were announced, the proposals that were made, it is more a demonstration of the government's intent to walk the talk. Some of these things, coal, for instance, an ordinance was promulgated in the month of January, and commercial mining was opened up. But what this has done is this has hastened it, and the rules have opened up. Also, please remember when the finance minister actually started the press conference by saying that being self-reliant doesn't mean we are isolationist. Okay. And she went on to announce an easing of FDI cap in defense. So it means that while there is a motto of self-reliance, in the sense that India can become self-sufficient in producing the goods that are required for India and also become an export hub, sure, it is not closing the doors for foreign investment. No, so there are lots of messages here, but the demand side remains a valid question.
It's a valid question. I'll get Gopal Krishna Agarwal to respond to that. But here's my question, Mr. Agarwal. Even take a sector like civil aviation, right? We know it's bleeding. Many airlines are cutting staff. The point is, today's announcements, there were 3 significant announcements that stood up for me. One is 6 more airports will go up for auction. We don't know which those cities are. Hopefully, the Ministry of Civil Aviation will give us details in the next few days. Second, Indian airspace will be rationalized. And 3, India hopes to be a maintenance, repair and overhaul hub. Now, please tell me, how does this help in the immediate term to any of these airlines? Air India is anyway bleeding. Even the private sector airlines have now begun to bleed. How is it going to help them in the near term to deal with the next 2-3 months?
Jaka, the one thing is that there has to be a 2-level strategy for anything. One thing is that the aviation sector is having a big problem. So by opening up the airspace, certain routes will be opened up and the transportation time will be reduced. There is an estimate that 1,000 crore rupees saving will be there for the airline sector. Then airports privatization will bring efficiency. Ultimately, what you think is that only pumping the funds in particular sector by the government from the taxpayers' money will help. That is one part. But at that another level, this aviation industry, if that becomes MRO hub, Indian airports will become MRO hub. Whole airport, airspace, airlines, all things, employment, everything will increase and
Sunil Alag is shaking his head. I don't think he agrees with what you're saying.
No,
No,
but
no,
that
I
is
think
there.
Sunil,
No,
Sunil.
you have to. No. So
गोपाल
just,
जी एक
Zaka,
सेकंड, गोपाल जी मेरी भी बात सुन
नहीं,
लीजिए, आप
हाँ,
थोड़ी बहुत
No, no.
देखो
देखिए,
अगर
तो
आप
सवाल
नहीं,
तो उन्होंने
एक मिनट,
पूछा है कि
10 more
अगले
second,
3
नहीं,
महीने
10
में
more.
Let
नहीं,
Sunil,
आप
one second,
let
Gopal
Sunil
ji,
make his
last
point, because
specific
one second,
question.
you made your point, Gopal ji.
मुझे पूरा पॉइंट करने दीजिए.
एक second.
अगर आप समझते हो, देखो,
Because the civil aviation
नहीं,
it's such a hot spot area. It's such a sector that is bleeding right now. That's why I asked you the question. You
But then-
put your point of view. Let Sunil now respond to that point of view, please.
No,
Sunil
but
Alak.
Sir, what-
I have not put full.
one second.
The issue is just pumping money.
Okay,
into
fair
which
enough.
Cannot be
Fair
operational
enough.
is not the
Point
right
taken.
choice.
Point taken that pumping money is not the right way. Now, please, Sunil, respond to him.
Look, all I'm saying is pumping money is not the right way. I've also praised all the moves that the government has announced today,
Yes,
but this
welcome.
is going to happen in the next 6 months, sir. 3 months ke liye, everybody is, even if we gave all the migrant workers you're giving them food only. Look, everybody wants rural demand to go up unless you give them at least 4,000 rupees for just 2 to 3 months. That's all I'm saying. Give them only for 2
dear
to 3
Sunil,
months, so that they are
dear-
able to not only get enough money to, 1 second, sir, just let me finish, and that would have cost you only 10,000 crores, nothing more than that. Look, there's no point in announcing how much of rice you've given and how much of wheat you've given. All right, they've got the food. They're not going to spend. Where is the money? So they need it for just
government. No, one second, Sunil. To be fair, one second. To be fair, the government has transferred money to Jandan accounts.
52,000
Yeah,
crore.
52,000. No, one second. The problem is this. Mr. Agarwal. I completely agree with you. Yes, the government has transferred money to Jandan accounts. Problem is, people are still going back, and we are seeing all of these heart-wrenching scenes, despite this 52,000 crore that you have transferred by DBT to various Jandan accounts.
That is a different issue.
No, it is not a different issue. If people have money, if people are secure in their workplaces, they would not need to go. Problem is there is no work and there is no money. That's why they are going.
No, Zakat,
Sir,
there are
I'm
two
just
issues.
saying for the next 2
Migration
months,
labor is
that's
a serious
all.
problem.
I'm not saying
The
forever.
Let Gopal ji
The
respond.
migrant to me, hope is
the
doing a
migration
great job,
labor,
but they're
there
doing
are
it
three
for...
issues, don't mix.
Sunil, one second. Let
months.
Mr. Agarwal respond. Sunil, one second. Mr. Agarwal,
There are three issues. We should not mix everything. There are three issues. Migration labor is a problem and it has to be resolved by the state government and the central government. You read extensively what Piyush Goyal press releases are saying, that we can run around more than 1,200 trains, and it is the state government which have to ask for trains to take them back.
That's one part of it. That's one part of it. Okay.
All the expenditure at the quarantine center for providing food, shelter, and at the time of completion giving some money, cash in their hand, is being provided by the central government. State governments have to make arrangements, but the funds will be provided by the central government.
All points conceded, but people are still going, sir.
So
People are
this is
still
because
going.
you ask West Bengal. West Bengal has only asked 9 trains, and Uttar Pradesh had taken 568 trains. So central government is ready to provide trains. State governments are not taking them.
Okay.
Maharashtra has
What
taken
I'll do
5-6
is,
trains.
hang on a second. I'll take a break at this point. We're also expecting the MoS for Heavy Industries, Mr. Arjunram Meghwal, to join us on the other side of this break. I'm going to take a break. When we come back, we'll continue this debate, because I think we need to collectively come together, set aside the politics between opposition and government, come together to figure this problem out, because this has been almost like a leitmotif over the last month and a half. Even this morning, there was a very, very tragic accident that happened in Uttar Pradesh. We'll try and get to the bottom of it. We'll take a quick break.